answer, but we just get the same answer, just the same thing. She just finished.
Hopefully that is on from the technical problems as usual. We are on the afternoon break in the questioning of Jon Boutcher at the undercover policing inquiry. Jon Boutcher was the last Deputy Chief Superintendent of the SDS and was responsible for shutting it down. He has been incredibly critical of the unit all day. Over the last hour and a half, he has continued to use all the superlatives about how awful the unit was, how unprofessional, how though these sort of things would not happen today, supposedly, in the undercover operations that he currently still runs as Chief Constable of the Police Service of Northern Ireland. I'm joined by Evelyn Lubbers, the Undercover Research Group. What have you made of what we've heard?
It's tempting to say finally someone says everything that was wrong. On the other hand, he had been around longer. It's like difficult to believe that he only heard about all these things or most of these things in the inquiry.
I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? Like, as soon as we get to reports that were filed on his watch, events that happened whilst he was in role, he can't remember. It's the same as we used to. He can't remember. He's never seen this document. It was never brought to his attention, and it contradicts the whole way that he's approached things. Otherwise,
and it qualifies his apologies and his very critical view of things. Like, he is or was partly responsible of things that went on before he got the task to close down the unit.
So, for example, he's to give some examples of what we've just heard. He said that that it was completely wrong for the intrusive and undercover tactics to be used against protest groups, environmentalism, and so forth. Yet we also see that when he was trying to cut the amount of overtime that was given to undercover officers, that there was special dispensation made for those infiltrating climate camp. So there was a bit extra finances for that. So it's like, what's going on here? If this is what you thought at the time, why are you behaving in this manner? He gave some very direct things about the family justice campaign should never have been targeted. It was completely wrong, and he's very strong on like these generalities. But when it comes to specifics of things on his watch,
he was responsible for what happened, and he does not acknowledge that. And that makes all the apologies, however heartfelt they're made, empty in a way, because he was responsible for people who were employed on his watch. And you have to look at the bigger scheme of things. That it had been clear for quite a while that things were going wrong in the SDS, and an organizational decision had been made over his head to to merge them with terrorist squad. And that was going to happen anyway, and that was so his task was basically to see if any of the undercover officers were the right people to join the merge and continue in a modernized way. The only thing he discovered basically is that they were all awful and that they were resistant to change, and that they could only function in this very close and very secret unit, self, how do you call that? They did what they did because it was always done like that.
Yes,
and
self-infatuated.
That's what I mean.
He talked about that the unit was rejected all their own descriptors about themselves as being or having integrity. He was like, no, they didn't have integrity. No, they didn't have transparency. They didn't have professionalism. He was incredibly strong. To be fair to him, I'm not defending him at all, but just to say, when it came to the things like the targeting of Atif Chowdhury, which happened on his watch, he said that never should have happened.
But it did on his watch.
Yeah, absolutely. He referred to, he's been very, very critical, particularly over the last hour and a half, of the senior management, who he says covered up for the abuses of the undercover police. He said as bad as their actions were, that they were allowed to happen by generations of special branch senior officers who covered up the what was going on
and didn't question anything.
Yeah, I mean,
Basically.
but then he himself didn't question anything.
No, so that's in that sense he is part of the entire play, and he doesn't acknowledge that,
No.
and that is a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
That is missing.
I mean,
Really.
also, I mean, he does continue to say that the checks and balances in covert policing at the moment continue to improve, and that the Covert Human Intelligence Sources Criminal Conduct Act of 2021 has improved things even more, and that we shouldn't worry about current events, which I'm sorry, I just
that's
cannot
Stretch
buy.
5, isn't it? It's Stretch 4 and 5 that are currently under threat of not happening. But
please watch the video I did earlier with Kate Wilson, which explains how you can help stopping the inquiry from happening.
But like he is sort of cordoning that off, like, and that happens all the time. Like, this was my remit, this was my task, and now everything is fine. And we know from the national unit that followed up the SDS, the MPIOU, which functioned under RIPA, under the new legislation, that things continue to go wrong in exactly the same way as they did in the SDS. And also for Trench 5, we already know that there are some examples of things that happened later and elsewhere in the country in undercover operations that also involved relationships, children, coercive. And so it's not all right now, and it's like, as one of the sort of bad points of this inquiry is that they're supposed to be making recommendations for the future, and that a lot of legislation is already in force now that sort of allows a lot of things that are awful that happened within the SDS, gives them sort of a legal foundation. And that is very bad. And if we then have senior officers like him saying that everything is all right now, that sort of, like, we need to have the same critical look at what has happened since. And we can't just say, like, well, everything is all right now, because scandals keep coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. There is more to come. We were told by counsel that there's another 30 minutes to an hour of questioning of Jon Boutcher before we get to the Rule 10s. So there's still plenty of things he's going to be questioned about. Just interesting, he pointed particularly to the litigation brought by Peter Francis and HM 123 as that should, like, if not before, but at that point, that should have been enough to shut the unit down.
Yeah.
He referred to the response of the Gold Group as a cover-up, which is very strong, given that included people like Frankie Flood, who's been very nice about, and people like Janet Williams and others who are very senior officers. He has been very critical of some very senior officers. I mean, it's telling he's the only one who's still in a policing role now. Anyway, thanks for joining us. We'll see you at the end of the day. Bye for now.